Okay, so getting into the work that we need to do this evening, when we started this course last week, we spoke about circles and circles not centered at the origin. All right, so we are continuing to discuss circles not centered at the origin. Tonight, what I'm going to teach you or show you is how to use the method of completing the square to write the equation of a circle from general form to center radius form. Okay, so last week, we didn't look at general form. We only looked at center radius form. So if you recall, the equation of a circle when it's in center radius form is like this one here that I'm highlighting in purple. Okay, so x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to r squared. That is when the circle is in center radius form. Okay, and the reason why we call it center radius form, if you can recall, is because we can write down the coordinates at the center as well as determine the length of the radius when it is in this form. However, it is also possible for us to expand the brackets by multiplication. So in other words, squaring out the brackets and making the right-hand side of the equation equal to 0. That means bringing r squared over from the right-hand side to the left-hand side. And when we do this, we can collect the terms as follows so that it ends up being ax squared plus bx plus cy squared plus dy plus e is equal to 0. And when it is in that form, we refer to it as general form. So you can be given the equation of a circle in either of these two forms. Either in your exam, you'll see it's already in center radius form, or they can give it to you in general form as well. Okay, in order to go from center radius form to general form is very, very easy. I'm going to show you how to do this, but it's not something that often gets asked. It's not an exam sort of question. And it's something that we should all be able to do because all of us are capable of multiplying out brackets. So if we are given center radius form as x minus 2 squared plus y plus 3, all squared is equal to 64. This is what we would do. We would first square our first binomial, and we would end up with x squared minus 4x plus 4. When we square our second bracket, we would end up with y squared plus 6y plus 9. We're going to bring the 64 over from the other side, remembering to change its sign, so we would end up with that. Okay, there are no other x squareds in the equation, so x squared would be on its own. As with the x term, I'm going to bring the y squared term down, then I'm going to bring the plus 6y term down. And now what I want to do is say 4 plus 9 minus 64. And when I do that, I'm going to end up with negative 51 as my answer. Okay, so now it is in general form. Okay, so over here, what I have, all right, like this. That's now general form. Okay, so you can see that this letter that they've called A over here is the coefficient of the x squared term. And that letter B, that's this coefficient over here, minus 4. C, that's the coefficient of the x squared term. That letter D over there is the 6. And in this case, the value of E would end up being minus 51. All right, so we're all able to do something like that because everybody knows how to square binomials and transpose terms. As I said, this is not the sort of thing that they're going to be asking you. What they want you to be able to do is go back the other way. All right, before I show you how to do that, I just want to just add in another point, not that anyone will ask you this, but in order for this to be a circle, the coefficient of the x squared term, this letter over here, this number over here, has to be the same as that number in front of the y squared term. Okay, if those numbers are different, if a and c are not the same, then it's not going to be a circle. It's going to become oval in shape. All right, but that would lie outside of our curriculum. Okay, so as long as x squared, the coefficient of the x squared term and the y squared term is the same, it is still a circle. All right, but we're not going to have to deal with it if it's not. So in order to be able to rewrite general form in center radius form, we have to use the method of completing the square, right? Which is something that you first learned about in grade 11, all right? And where we applied it in grade 11 was when we took a parabola given to us in standard form, and we completed the square in order to get it into turning point form, if you recall. Okay, so it's the same method that we used over there, but somehow this seems to be a little bit easier. I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. All right. In the case of the circle, please note that we have to complete the square twice. Okay, we do it once for x, and then we do it again for y. All right, so let me show you how this works with the next example that I have. All right, they give us x squared minus 6x plus y squared plus 4y minus 5 is equal to 0. So do you see how I'm leaving spaces between the 6x and the next term and the 4y and the equal sign? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this minus 5, whoopsie daisy, it didn't mean to do that, over to the other side. So it's going to become positive 5. When I complete the square on an expression, I take half of the x or y term. So in this case, let's complete the square on the x first. So I'm going to take half of minus 6. So that's this coefficient over here. In this case, it's equal to negative 3. I take that number and I square it. That gives me 9. So what I'm going to do in order to complete the square is I'm going to add 9 in on the left-hand side. That makes x squared minus 6x plus 9 a perfect square trinomial. Okay. And I'm going to do the same thing for the y. I'm going to complete the square. So I'm going to take half of the coefficient of y, which in this case is positive 4. That gives me 2. I'm going to take 2 and I'm going to square it. That gives me 4. And I'm going to add 4 to the left-hand side. So now that makes my y squared plus 4y plus 4 a perfect square trinomial. But this entire thing, matrix, is an equation. So what I do to one side, I have to do to the other side. So when I add 9 to the left, I have to add 9 to the right. When I add 4 to the left, I have to add 4 to the right-hand side as well. Okay, so the easiest thing for you to do is write it down like I did, complete the square, add the 9 on the left, add the 9 on the right. Then do your y squareds, complete the square, add the 4 to the left, add the 4 to the right-hand side. Okay, now we are ready for the next step, okay, which is factorizing. We need to factorize our perfect square trinomials. All right, so x squared minus 6x plus 9 factorizes into x minus 3 squared. On the right-hand side, y squared plus 4y plus 4 factorizes into y plus 2 squared. On the right-hand side, I have 5 plus 9 plus 4, which leaves me with 18. Okay, so now I have gone from center radius, from general form to center radius form, and I'm ready to answer the next set of questions. Okay, now, Pinga, you said, how did I get the 9? Okay, that's what I have in green here, Pinga, on the right-hand side. I completed the square. Here's the 9. Okay, that's where it comes from completing the square. Any questions before I move on, Matrix?
Please take screenshots if you're okay. I see a thumbs up from Pinga. Thank you, Pinga. What about the
Okay.
Mohelo, you need to ask directly on which parts should mem repeat.
Yeah, so you need to tell me what it is exactly that you don't understand. Okay. So lots of other thumbs ups. If you can tell me what it is exactly that you don't understand, then I'm happy to go through that again with you.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Kamachelo.
My confusion is on the part where we add the 9 and the 4 on the right-hand side.
Okay, but it's an equation, isn't it, Kamachelo? So
Yes,
if
it
you
is,
if you're adding 9 to the left, you got to add 9 to the right. Otherwise, it's not balanced.
Okay.
Okay, so it's just because it's an equation. What you add to the left, you got to add to the right. Okay, are you happy about that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, all right, no problem. Okay, so now when they say to us, hence, write down the coordinates at the center. Now that it is in center radius form, it's easy for us to do so. The coordinates at the center will be +3 and -2. The length of the radius is going to be √18. Ludwina?
Hi, ma'am.
Hi, Ludwina.
Ma'am, I wanted to ask why we don't square the 18 in 5.1.
Why don't you square it?
Yes, because
Why?
the equation it's r squared.
Yes, so 18 represents r squared.
Oh, okay.
So whatever's on the right-hand side when it's in center radius form, that is r squared.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Cool. Any other questions?
Sorry, ma'am.
Yes.
So the r equals to square root 18, isn't square root 18 is equals to 3 square root 2.
That's
right,
it. That's right. Absolutely. So that is simplest third form. Okay, so if you put √18 onto your calculator, it's going to give you 3√2. Okay, but they don't mind. Okay, they don't mind whether you write it in root form or whether you write it in simplest third form. Okay, so this is third form, and then this is simplest third form.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, Palesa, no problem. No problem. Okay. The other thing that we have to take note of, remember, is that the radius is a distance. Okay. So whatever is on the right-hand side always has to be positive. Whatever it is, whatever number it ends up being. In this case, it ends up being 18, right? But it always has to be positive. Okay. If it was negative, then the circle could not exist. Okay. So r squared always has to be positive. Very, very important. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give you any practice with writing the circles in general form because I don't really see the need for that. What I want us to focus on is question number 3. So if you want something that is a little bit easier, then what I'm going to suggest to you is to do question 3.2. If you want something that's a little bit more of a challenge, then try question 3.4. And they give you a nice hint here on what it is that you need to do first. Right. So this is definitely a question that I do want to go through with you guys when we go through the answers. So you're going to choose either you're going to do question 3.2 or you're going to do question 3.4. They want you to calculate the coordinates at the center and the length of the radius. So if you are given the equation in general form, you first need to use completing of the square to get it into center radius form before you can determine the coordinates at the center as well as the length of the radius. Okay. All right, go for it. And remember, Yolanda and I are here to assist you if you need any help.
Ma'am, can I please just ask you a question while everybody's just like solving the equations?
Yes, of course, of course. So everybody else, you carry on working. Go for it, Katleho.
Ma'am, first, can you please go back to the third? You remember the answer that had a third, the root
Yes.
of 18. Ma'am, I
Okay.
don't understand. Yeah,
What don't you understand about it?
I don't understand why is it 3 root 2, ma'am?
Okay, so if you have got the square root of 18, you can write 18 as 9 times 2. So the square root of 9 times 2 would be the square root of 9 times the square root of 2. The square root of 9 is 3, and root 2, that would end up being your third. That's why.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
ma'am.
but your calculator would do that automatically for you, but that's where it comes from. Do you remember doing that in grade 11 when you did thirds and exponents?
Yes, ma'am. I think it was
There
like
you
one
go.
of the first topics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
And also,
yes.
ma'am, I just wanted to ask, does Watobe only offer math extra classes or like?
At the moment, yes, it's only maths, I'm afraid.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
While everyone is working, for those of you who were asking me about the boot camp, you can pay for last year's boot camp also, because some of you, I know that you're writing the exams in May or in June because you are rewriting, but then you need to pay for it. So please contact Watobe's administrator, and then they can give you the details on how to do that. The customer experience team on WhatsApp. So you should have that information, and then you can communicate with them and tell them exactly what you want. Okay, my people. Hopefully that helps. Lindy's hand is up. Lindy, is that an old hand or you want to ask a question? Okay, that was an old hand. Okay. When you're done, please, my people, do put it on the chat to say you're done.
Yes. So we're just going to say done. We're not going to put any answers in so that nobody becomes discouraged by seeing other people's answers too soon. Oh, wow. All right, done with 3.2. Cool. Okay, so I'm seeing lots of dones. Nice. Good job, everybody. Excellent. Good job. Go for it, Ledwina.
Hi, ma'am.
Hi,
I just wanted
Ledwina.
to ask if when everyone's done, could I please try attempt 3.4, my answer for it?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm going to ask for people to do 3.2 first, but no problem. You can do 3.4.
Thank you, ma'am.
Cool. Okay, so who would like to do 3.2? Anybody want to offer to do 3.2 for us? Anyone feeling brave and wants to try 3.2? Tell us how to do it.
Try, ma'am?
Yes, with pleasure. Una, it's you. Lovely. Go for it.
Okay, so what I did is, okay, x squared plus 2x, which is square rooted the x part. I got one, and then I square rooted the 1 plus y squared minus 10y plus 5. Then I square rooted the 5.
Okay, so then you must square the 5. That's right. So then here you would have had plus 25. Did you have that?
Yeah. Yes,
Good.
I do.
Lovely.
Then,
keep going.
Then equals to negative 16.
Lovely.
Then I added the 1 and the 25.
Beautiful. Keep going. I love it. Yes.
What I got is x plus 1 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals to 10.
Good. Well done. Very nice. Keep going.
Then my center is negative 1 and negative 2, negative 5. Then my radius is equals to 5.
Your radius, just careful, it was equal to the square root of 10.
Yes.
Yeah, root 10. Okay, so it's not divide by 2. You've got to take the square root. Okay, so remember 10 is r squared. Okay, very nice. Well done. Very, very nice answer. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. I could not have said it better. Okay, so there you go, Matrix. The coordinates at the center were -1 and 5, and the length of the radius was root 10, like so. Okay, any questions before Lidwina does question 3.4? Pinga, so ma'am, is it half of? So Pinga, it's going to always be half of the coefficient of x and the coefficient of y. So in the case of x, it was half of 2. In the case of y, it was half of -10. Okay, so that's why we ended up with 1 over here, and we squared it, and we got 1, and we added 1 over there, and here we ended up with -5, and then we took -5, and we squared it, and we ended up with 25, and why we added in 25 over there. And of course, what we did to the left, we got to do to the right as well. Okay, Pinga? Yes, the signs change. Okay, so the signs change. So from +1, it becomes -1, and from -5, it becomes +5. Okay, everybody happy with that? If that is indeed the case, now, Lidwina, you wanted the opportunity to be able to do 3.4. So just take screenshots, everyone, of 3.2. I'm going to rub that out so that I can write in the same space so that we can see question 3.4 as I write down Lidwina's answer. Okay, so I'm getting rid of that now. Okay, so Lidwina, all yours. Go for it. You're going to do 3.4. What did you do first?
Thank you, ma'am. So first I took the hint and divided by 2.
Okay, so what did that give you?
X squared minus 2x plus y squared minus 3. And I took the 5 over, and I had positive 5 over 2 is equal to positive 5 over 2.
Very nice. Good job.
And I divided and squared my coefficients of x and y, and I had x squared minus 2x plus 1.
Lovely.
plus y squared minus 3y plus 9/4.
Nice. Good job. Well
Which is
done.
equal to, and then I did the same thing that I did on the one side to the other. I had 5/2 plus 1 plus 9/4.
Awesome. Good job.
Then
Keep
I had
going.
2 perfect trinomials. So for the one, I had x minus 1 squared in the one
Lovely.
bracket, plus I had y minus 3/2 squared,
Excellent.
and it's equal to 23/4 when I add all of them together.
Nice. Good job. Well done.
Thank you, ma'am. And then my coordinates were 1 and 3/2. And r was
Lovely.
equal to the square root of 23/4, which can be simplified to the square root of 23/2.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Lidwina, that's brilliant. Well done. Very, very, very nice question. Well done. That's lovely. Excellent. Okay, so that's how we would have done 3.4. I cannot explain that any better than Lidwina did. That is exactly what I would have told you guys as well. So that's just slightly more of a difficult question, but she did it absolutely beautifully. Any questions about 3.4 before we move on and do the next thing?
And how many marks would that be? We just want to find out how many people.
Sure. Okay, so there would be a mark for completing the square. Then I would think, also, so this mark over here would be like an attempt of trying to complete the square. If you then completed the square accurately, you would get a mark for the line, a mark for the center, and a mark for the radius. Thank you for reminding me about that. All right. Okay. And then there's a question, ma'am, do we always have to write it as a fraction? I think so often we get so used to pressing the SD button. You don't always have to press the SD button. So it's perfectly acceptable to write your answer as a fraction or as an improper fraction, or in this case, as a third fraction. Okay, nothing wrong with that. You don't have to press the SD button. You can leave it just like that. Okay. Not a problem at all. Any other questions before we move on and do something a little bit more difficult? Okay, so does that mean that we're all good, Matrix? Thumbs ups? You can just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. How are you feeling about question 3.4? Are we all good? Nice. Thanks,
Guys.
Keithlyn. Z Onatile, Pinga up and down, Kagiso, Bali, Indrina, Tamo, Tando, lovely. Okay, thanks for the feedback. Of course, if you do have any questions, nice. Okay, so the other thing that I just want to mention before we move on, all right, I don't know if you remember in grade 11, but you cannot complete the square on any expression or equation unless the coefficient of the x squared term and the y squared term is +1. Okay, so that's why we had to divide through by 2 first of all. Okay, so you can only begin the process of completing the square once that's been done. But I'm supposing that you probably remember that from last year. Okay, so if there are no other questions, let's go and have a look at the next couple of questions that I'd like to do with you. That would be question 4 and question number 5 as well. So I'm just going to move question 5 down here out of the way. Let's have a look at question 4 now. Let's just move that one below there. It doesn't matter. Let's look at question number 4. Right, so here they say to us, if the radius of the circle defined by the equation x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 4y minus k equals 0 is 5. So they're implying that the radius is 5. determine the value of k. How do you think we should answer this question, Matrix? What do you think we should do? So the circle has the equation x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 4y minus k equals 0. The length of the radius is 5. How do we calculate the value of k? What do you think?
Ma'am,
Yes, Ludwina.
I'm not too sure. I'm just taking a guess, but couldn't we take the k over the equal sign and then solve the right hand of the equation and then later the left to get k?
Okay, so you're on the right track. So if I just write what you've done, I would end up with x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 4y. And then I would take the k over to the other side like so. All right. Remember over here that the radius is 5. Okay. So you're part of the way, but you're not 100% finished. What else do you think you need to do to the x squared minus 2x plus y squared plus 4y equals k? Kagiso, what do you think you should do?
Ma'am, can we
Yes.
square this r, ma'am? Because initially we want the r squared, ma'am.
Okay, absolutely. So if you want to know what r squared is, you would have to square the 5, right? So absolutely, that's definitely part of it. That's definitely part of it.
Then I guess from here, can't we just like complete the square for x and y, ma'am?
Absolutely. So complete the square for me. What should I add in on the left and the right?
For x squared minus 2x, it's plus 1.
Lovely.
And for y squared plus 4, it's 2, if I'm not mistaken.
You're almost right. Remember, you've got to square it. So it would be plus 4. Okay, good job.
So
And then what else do I need to do?
you have to also add 1 and add 4 on the other side.
Beautiful. Okay, fantastic. So now that you've done this, you're getting it into center radius form. So the next step would be to do what, do you think? What do you think would be the next thing we should do, Matrix?
Ma'am, Kagisha has his hand up. I don't know if
Okay.
it's a-
All right, Kagiso, do you want to carry on talking?
But don't you like just do the x minus no, I'm lying, sorry, I'm not sure. Maybe not lying to you.
That's okay. No, you've done really, really well. You're like right there. There's just one more thing that you need to do really to get your answer. I mean, yes, fair enough. We can go and factorize our perfect square trinomials. All right. That's not really going to help us with the answer to the question, because what they want from us is the value of k.
Can I try it, bro?
Go
Sorry.
for it. Even if you get it wrong, it does not matter.
So
Give it a try.
Do we say 25 minus 4 and 1, man?
No.
Which just gives us 20. We'll do
Okay,
that.
okay, you're on the right track. Okay, but it's just in terms of how would you set it out. Okay, so you read, that's brilliant. Okay, what you need to do, well, actually, let me not say it. Ludwina's got her hand up. Let me hear what Ludwina has to say first. Ludwina, go for it.
I wanted to say, since we know that r squared is equal to 25, couldn't we say k plus 5 is equal to 25 and then solve it?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, Lorato, you were also on the right track. Quite right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take what's over here, because that is r squared, isn't it? So we're going to take k plus 5, as you said. We're going to make it equal to 25, and then we're going to say k would be equal to 25 minus 5. So k would be equal to 20. Very nice. Well done. Good job, guys. Okay. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay. So Tando, remember, we get the 1 and the 4 by completing the square. Okay, so we get the 1 by working out half of -2 and then squaring it. And we get the 4 by taking half of 4, which is 2, and then squaring it. Okay, so we add the 1 and the 4 to the left-hand side, and we must also add it to the right. Good job. Well done. That was really, really nicely answered. I'm very, very pleased with your efforts there. So take a screenshot, guys, and we're going to try the next question now, unless there are any other questions. See, how? Yes, you can. But to be honest with you, it's not going to be worth any marks because it's not actually going to help you with the answer to the question. So yes, you can complete the squaring, but there wouldn't be any marks allocated for that. All right, they wanted us to determine the value of k. All right, but we needed to complete the square before we were able to do that. Any other questions before we move on?
Wow, we are on it tonight, guys.
We are. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the next question and I'm going to put it over here. So we've just got a little bit more space to write. And now we're going to have a look at this. Okay, so in this question, it says to us, for which values of k will the equation x squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 2y plus k define a circle? So for what values of k will the equation x squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 2y plus k equals 0 define a circle? Right, so there's something that shame, Gariso. That's why I'm doing these sorts of questions with you guys, because I want to push you just a little bit so that we're also doing questions that are at least level 3 as well, maybe even level 4. We'll certainly do level 4 before you write your exams. Okay. Any ideas on where you think we would start with this? What piece of information? It's something that I've mentioned this evening. It's not on the screen at the moment, but there's something that I've said to you this evening that is sort of key in answering this question. Lidwina, what do you think it is?
Ma'am, didn't you say that the RHS has to be greater than 0?
Ah, okay, absolutely. So for a circle to be defined, I'll just pop this on here. For a circle to be defined, the right-hand side, which is r squared, always has to be greater than 0. Okay, perfect. That's exactly what I was getting at, Lidwina. So you didn't miss a thing there. Okay, perfect. That is one piece of information that we need. What do you think we need to do here, guys? So I'm going to show you this. This is not our starting point, but we're going to need this piece of information when we get started. What do you think we should do? Okay, so Pinga, is it finding the center we need to complete the square? Okay, because we need to know what r squared is, don't we? Because for a circle to be defined, r squared has to be greater than 0. All right, so we need to define or work out a value for r squared. So we're going to complete the square. So completing the square, these are the skills that we've already got. So we would say x squared plus 6x. What would I need to add in here in order to complete the square?
9.
Exactly. So I'm going to add in 9 over here. What am I going to add in here? It would be
1.
Good. And on the right-hand side, I would end up with negative k after transposing it. And then I also need to include the 9 and the 1. So once you have completed the square matrix, remember, whatever is on the right-hand side after you have completed the square, that represents r squared. So this over here is r squared. So now what do you think we should do with it?
Ma'am, can't we say minus k plus 10 is greater than 0? And then it
Lovely.
becomes an inequality like someone said in the comments.
Exactly, quite right. So we'd have minus k over here is greater than, take the 10 over to the other side. And then what happens when we divide by a negative on both sides of our inequality matrix?
The sign changes
The
direction.
sign changes direction. So then k would need to be smaller than 10. Okay, good job. Well done. Okay, so the values of k, where it would define a circle, as long as k is a number that is smaller than 10, then your circle will exist or be defined. Okay, well done, Ludwina. That was really nice, and with a little bit of help from a few other people in the chat as well. Yes, Pinga, quite right, an inequality. Any questions for Trix?
Ma'am,
Yes, Katleho.
so what this question is basically asking us is what values of k will this whole equation, will the circle be existent or will the circle
Yes,
exist?
yes,
Okay, ma'am.
yes,
Okay,
yes. Absolutely. So what we've discovered is that if k is a number that is 10 or bigger, then the circle cannot exist. Okay. Because then r squared would not be greater than 0. Okay. How many? Oh, good question, Lorato. So I would say the key points in this question are definitely completing the square, getting your minus k plus 9 plus 1, then taking that and make it greater than 0, and then here getting your answer. So I would say that something like this would be out of 4 marks. Okay. Good job. Well done, everybody.
Ma'am,
Yes, Tando.
ma'am, I wanted to ask, why is r squared greater than 0?
Okay, because your r is your radius,
Yes.
and that is a length or a distance. So because it's a length or a distance, it's always going to be positive. So if you take a number that's positive and you square it, it's always going to be a positive number, isn't it? Or if you take any value and you square it, it's always going to be positive. Okay, so that's why.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, no problem. Okay, any other questions before we do the last question for this evening? Are we all good, Matrix? Thumbs up, thumbs down. We feeling good?
Nice.
Nice, everybody. Well done. Lovely. Okay, good. Glad you guys are feeling good about this. Okay, let's go on to the next question. All right. So let's have a look at question 7. So here it says to us, the equation of a circle is x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 12y plus 27 equals 0. The first bit is quite easy. They ask us to determine the center and the radius of the circle, okay, which we should all be able to do now. The second question asks us to determine t if a second circle with equation x squared plus y squared plus 8x minus 12y plus t equals 0 has a radius twice the length of the radius of the original circle. So that's the bit that we haven't seen before, right? So in 7.1, let's see if we can just whip through that quite quickly. In order to get the center and the radius, we would need to complete the square. All right, so by now we should all be feeling confident with this. We've got x squared plus 8x, then here we would have plus 16 plus y squared minus 12y. So here we would have 36. We would take our 27 over to the other side, and to that we would add our 16 and we would add our 36. So this gives us x plus 4 squared. Over here we've got y minus 6 squared, and then on the right hand side we would need to add 16 and 36 and take away 27. So we would end up with 25. All right, so the coordinates at the center would be -4, +6. The length of the radius is 5. We all know how to do that, but the reason that we're doing this question is not because of question 7.1, it's because of question 7.2. Okay, so how do you think we should do question 7.2 now that we've done question 7.1? What do you think we need to do here?
Ma'am, can I please just take a wild guess?
Please, Katleho, take a wild guess.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, we're going to say x squared, what's that? Yeah, x squared plus 8x plus, what's that? 16 plus x, no, plus y squared plus 12 plus 36 equals to t, ma'am. And okay,
Equals
t
negative,
plus
negative,
16
negative
plus,
t.
oh
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
okay.
Okay, so that's fine, not a problem. Let's just do that. Equals negative t, and then here you want to add in 16 and 36 as well. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right, not a problem.
And then, ma'am, you're going to say negative t plus 16 plus 36 equals to double 5, which is 10, ma'am, unless I'm wrong.
Okay, you are on the right track. You are on the right
Okay, ma'am.
track. You are on the right track. So what does, my question to you is, okay, so Lidwina, I see you've got your hand up. Lidwina, what does minus t plus 16 plus 36 represent? Go for it, Lidwina.
Ma'am, it represents r squared.
Good. So r squared is minus t plus, and then 36 and 16 is 52, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that represents r squared. Okay, keep going.
Ma'am, I'm not sure how to like explain it, but I got like minus t plus 52 is equal to 100 because I squared the 10 that Katleho was talking about.
Yes, exactly. So that's exactly what Katleho just, what she didn't mention. Okay, so you're quite right. Let's just make sure that everybody else understands what you're talking about over here. So the circle that we are talking about has a radius twice the length of the original radius. So remember it says here, twice the length of the original radius. The original radius is 5. So the new radius, let's call the new radius capital R. It's going to be 2 times 5, which is 10. All right, and that is what we need to go and sub in here. So this is going to be 10 squared. That's where she's getting the 100 from. Okay, does that make sense to everybody? So that's why she's got 100 is equal to minus t plus 52. Lesedi, you've got a hand up. Go for it, Lesedi.
Ma'am, hi ma'am.
Hi.
Ma'am, where did you get the equation that you used subbed into 7.2?
Okay, so it comes because here, let me just highlight it for you. Let me just use a different color. It's the same equation that we were given originally. Okay, so I think it was Katleho who said, we're going to work with what we've got. All right, so we've already completed the square in 7.1. So that's why she used this, because this came from 7.1. She had already completed the square. She just worked with the t. Does that make sense to you? So she had added in the 16 to complete the square on the x. She added in the 36 to complete the square on the y. And then that she took the t over to the other side. And then she added those terms over there.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
All right, no problem. All right, so we're nearly there, matrix. We can now work out the value of t, and I think we get negative 48 as our answer. Okay, any questions? Does that make sense? How do you feel? Any questions? Okay, so Darren's got a hand. Thumbs up, Keith Lynn, Kahiso, Atule, Naledi, good, Dorato. Please don't be shy to ask. Ntlafatso, Oratile, Shania, Trish, good. Is that making sense? Yes.
Ma'am, how many marks would this be? Like, would this be actually a question in the upcoming exams?
It could
also
it could be. It could be a question in a control test as well. Okay. Normally exam type questions, sort of, there are a lot of questions. So you'll have like question 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, because analytical geometry does this. This is more of a problem solving sort of question. So, you know, this is good for us because it gets us to think about sort of slightly more difficult applications. How much would this be worth? Well, the first part of the question would be a mark for completing the square, a mark for getting it in center radius form, a mark for the coordinates at the center, and a mark for the length of the radius. The second part of the question, all right, would be, I think here, for writing down that r squared was equal to minus t plus 52, is that where I think you'd get your first mark. And then I think the next thing would be for equating it to 10 squared and then working out what t was equal to. Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, we're
All
also
right,
going to be
no
writing
problem.
about the grade 11 work, right? Where we're just calculating distance and midpoint in between
Correct.
exams.
Correct. So I don't know what your particular school is planning on doing, or if you're writing a common paper. But certainly when it comes to trials and to finals, the grade 11 work is a separate question on its own and is very, very important. So we will do revision of that before the time comes. Normally in June papers, they don't include the grade 11 work, or if they do, they're very specific about what from grade 11 they're including.
Oh, yeah, but you still have to know how to get the midpoint. And things like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. You still got to be able to calculate all those things. Definitely, yes.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay, no problem.